Hello, School Transportation Nation. It's Tony Corpin. We're here this week for another fun-filled episode of School Transportation Nation with Mr. Ryan Gray, always providing us the tantalizing, scintillating, more like scintillating, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I think scintillating maybe.
Scintillating's not a word.
a little alliteration there too. I liked it. But yes, thank you, Nation. As I say every week, it's great to be with you.
Yeah, Ryan's always got his fingers on the pulse of everything editorial. So we are looking forward to talking top headlines. We've got some great interviews coming up. But right after we share about our top sponsors, TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, the School Bus Safety Company, the leader in school bus driver training, also special interview coming up with them, and Ride, real innovation delivered with excellence. So Jeff Cassell, president of the School Bus Safety Company, and I are going to have a chat about his brand new safety leadership course. It is an interesting conversation. What is Safety Nation? Do you know?
I do.
A lot of people. Oh, Ryan knows. You cheated. You know what it is, Ryan?
I've heard it many times. I do know what it is, but I won't give it away.
All right. Well, you guys can find out later. Jeff's going to dive deeper into causes of accidents, what causes them, and how we can maybe do a better job of avoiding that. Looking at uptime on buses, also talking about how you can really elevate your team and what you can do more to provide great leadership. So we'll look forward to that conversation in just a little bit. And Ryan, you're talking with Glenna Wright-Gallo. She is a keynote speaker at the TSD Conference. Who is Glenna Wright-Gallo? That name sounds familiar.
Oh, she is a force of nature. I'll put it that way. She is a good friend of STN. It was great sitting down and talking with her. She was the Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education, heading up the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, or OSERS. So very key in Washington, D.C. as a policymaker for TSD Conference and all of the transporters who specialize in transporting those kiddos to and from. Tried to get her to TSD a couple times when she was holding office. Of course, that was very hard. Got some great insights from her on how that came about, Tony, how she was selected. It took she didn't start until 2023, basically halfway through President Biden's presidential term, but she was essentially tapped right at the beginning. That just shows you how long it takes to get confirmed and get everything all in line, so someone can go ahead and hopefully get confirmed and take office. So we talk with Glenna. She talks about her keynote. She talks about what she's doing now. She talks about where she's been. She's been at the state departments in Utah and Washington State, heading up special education. She's a special ed teacher to begin with. So she's got some great insights to share with our attendees and the nation on what's going to happen with the U.S. Department of Education. So a lot there that she's going to share.
Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety about that one, Ryan. And so I'm sure the audience will enjoy that. I know our numbers keep climbing week over week. So guys, if you haven't signed up yet, tsdconference.com, go over, check it out. We'd love to have you there in the ultimate special needs training experience. We've got a great lineup of keynotes. If you go over there, check out our daily agenda, speakers. Ryan has put together an action-packed schedule. We got hands-on trainings. We got extrication. We got evacuations. There's, Ryan.
No extrications.
Oh, maybe that's for Reno. All right.
Reno.
Well, you can save it for Reno, Ryan. But evacuations, I definitely know is there.
Yes, there's going to be an evacuation. We're going to have our NHTSA 8-hour child passenger safety on school buses. We have wheelchair securement training. We have dozens of sessions, presentations, panels, a ride and drive, a technology showcase, trade show. It's going to be a packed 5-6 days. It's going to be fun.
I know we posted a great story about our legal eagle, Betsy Helfrich, up on the stnonline.com website. And we've got great stories in our event news, guys, about all of our keynotes. There's news stories written about what we're going to be talking about with these keynotes. But Betsy in particular is interesting. And I always say it is, if you're going to get legal advice or legal expertise, it's probably going to cost you $400-$500 an hour. And Betsy, 1 hour with Betsy in the keynote, you just paid for your conference at the TSD conference. So Ryan, she's going to dive deep into some landmark cases that are affecting school transportation operators, especially in the area of special needs. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. And she's going to be our guest next week on the podcast. So be sure, Nation, to tune in and you can get some more insights from Betsy. But she's been a great find. She's been almost kind of a mainstay at TSD over the last several years. So we're very happy that she's been able to continue to be with us. I know next year she's got to take a break because she already has another speaking engagement. So I have something lined up. It's going to blow your socks off, folks. I'm not going to say it yet. You need to wait. But found Betsy, as I try to do with all of our legal eagles at LRP. That's like the leading legal publication and conference. So if you speak at LRP, you know that you know your stuff, and if you see them on the agenda, they know their stuff. So that's always what I look for, a good benchmark. So found Betsy. She has become very close with Peggy Burns, our dear friend, TSD tenured faculty emeritus, former contributor to STN. I don't know how many times she spoke at STN Expo West in Reno, as well as TSD. So a lot of folks will remember the Peggy Burns, Linda Bluth show that we would roll out. So that was always a fun one. But Peggy kind of took Betsy under her wing several years ago and said, hey, this one is a keeper. So looking forward to a conversation next week with Betsy. And certainly, you mentioned, Tony, you can pay $400 or $500 an hour for an attorney, or your school district will pay that much. You get not only an hour with Betsy, I think her keynote is close to 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes or something like that. And then she's also going to be doing a breakout that afternoon looking at video review. Ooh. She's going to be touching on sexual assault that's been happening. We've seen a ton of those cases affecting the industry, not simply driver or attendant on student, but a lot of student on student. And if you have video, but you're not watching the video, you're not utilizing the technology to ping you when it notices something that's off, or if the driver hits a panic button and you're not reviewing that stuff and there is a sexual assault or some other incident, you're not being proactive to address it, to stop it, to report it, that will land you in court. So a lot there to unpack, under FERPA, and who's able to or allowed to view the video, the chain of custody, getting law enforcement involved. There's really a lot to unpack there. So Betsy's going to be doing double time for us and really looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. We've got some more headlines coming up here right after this.
The RIDE family of vehicles include the award-winning Achiever, Creator, and Dreamer battery electric school buses. The Creator is powered by STN's 2025 Best Green Technology Award winner, the Blade battery. With safety as a central focus, RIDE school buses provide immediate benefits to our communities and our children. Visit ride.co to discover the future of student transportation, or email info.na@ride.co for further product detail.
All right, Ryan, I know the NAPT election results came out before the conference. So what was the news? It's officially official. We have the winners, right? And a few names we know.
Absolutely. So the new president-elect is Melody Coniglio. She is, of course, the director of transportation. And I'm going to murder this, but West Geauga local schools in Ohio. So she is going to be stepping into that president-elect chair, succeeding Keith Kopp of Texas, who assumes president. So this is all going to happen on November 1st at NAPT ACTS up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They're going to get sworn in. So NAPT members voted online September 30th and October 1st. So Melody, congratulations to you. She is currently the Region 3 director for NAPT, and so she will be retaining that position through the end of the month, of course, when she gets to Grand Rapids. And then again, November 1st, she'll take on the president role, or president-elect role, I should say. And NAPT said they will be holding a special election to find her successor for Region 3. And then also, too, Mark Medina, the supervisor of transportation for Farmingdale School District in New York. He succeeds Peter Lawrence, old friend of ours, as Region 1 director. So Peter had reached his term limit there. So Mark, keeping it there in the New York family, he's going to be heading up Region 1 on the board. And then out west, Region 5 director is Dawnette Wright, good friend of STN's. I saw her over the summer in Reno. She's looking good, feeling healthy. She had a bit of a health scare, but she's really come through the other side. So congratulations to Dawnette. She's going to do a great job. She succeeds Athena Bartz of Wyoming, who completed one term and chose not to seek re-election. And then last but certainly not least, our dear friend Maritza Valentin, National Sales Manager for AMF Bruins of America. She successfully got her second term as the affiliate member director. So congratulations to Maritza. NAPT said that she will, quote, continue her work to strengthen the connections between industry business partners and members. So again, congratulations to all. And also, too, there is a vote coming up this week, October 6th through the 10th, on proposed bylaw amendments. So be on the lookout for that if you are an NAPT member.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see, Ryan. It's like, what does it mean to be president of NAPT? What are the rules? What do you go through? The conference is one thing, but, looking at the industry, trying to decide how the association positions itself. And it's remained relatively neutral on a lot of topics over the years, hasn't gone too deep. And it's always interesting when you see different programs or little bits and pieces of legislation. And I know Katrina Morris, just on the heels of her great success of putting together a public awareness campaign with NASCAR and Roush CleanTech and Bluebird, there was a little nugget that came out from the Fed talking about some public awareness around stopping, or is it, what are they calling it? Braking for kids? Stopping for kids?
The Brake for Kids Act, Senate Bill 2812. So that was announced last week. NSTA, the National School Transportation Association, applauding Senators Todd Young of Indiana and Gary Peters of Michigan. So Michigan, there's the connection there. So actually that was introduced on September 16th. So we've seen a lot of illegal passing, school bus stop safety legislation at the federal level. Over the years, not much has stuck. There's been a lot of these bills introduced. They don't end up going anywhere, but certainly it makes for good publicity for the industry, for these senators and congressional members who are trying to do something to affect school bus safety. Certainly, Indiana, they were in the news several years ago for a horrific illegal passing crash that killed 3 students, actually siblings, as they were crossing the street to their bus, and pre-dawn hours. Also, their friend was struck and injured. So definitely, this has been a big issue in Indiana. In fact, really where the first adoption of no left-hand pickups, basically. So basically ensuring the routing is always stopping and picking up the kids on the right side of the street at their home, so that they're basically eliminating crossing. We've seen that it's coming slow, but more and more folks are adopting that. And certainly, like you mentioned, Tony, the recent PSA that was filmed with under the Michigan Association for Pupil Transportation and Katrina Morris, our good friend, with Roush and Bluebird. That's going to be coming out here soon. So Going to maybe be seeing a lot of PSAs featuring the school buses and illegal passing. That would be great. Certainly, it's still probably, I would say, still at an epidemic level. Certainly, NASDIPS, the National Association for State Directors of Pupil Transportation Services, they released over the summer their results of their one-day illegal passing survey. This is a voluntary survey. It fell, and we've reported on this. You can go to stnonline.com and find that article. The number fell, but still, when you're talking about millions a day, tens of millions a day of these incidents happening, that's a big issue. I think that, a lot of folks, though, say in the industry, I talked to a lot of folks and say yes, illegal passing is a really bad issue, but we can't forget what's happening on board the bus as well, with child behavior. And I think that when you look at our TSD conference, again, what so many of the attendees say is we want more and more stuff on behavior, because behavior still is the biggest distraction to school bus drivers. So school bus safety, obviously, it's a spectrum. This illegal passing is one, yes, very important aspect of that. But I'm sure, as you mentioned earlier, you're going to be talking with Jeff Cassell soon. He's going to have a lot of thoughts on that, as well as just complete school bus safety.
Yeah, Ryan, it's interesting too, because Ryan Preece, who drives for RFK Racing, has some star power, right? If you follow NASCAR, right? There's many people that don't follow NASCAR. They're probably like, who's Ryan Preece? Never heard of him. But I think anytime we can elevate our industry to a broader audience, that is the goal, right? I think we've seen it as well at the federal level. They've had this wish or this dream to do awareness of illegal passing on the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And that is a really big, lofty goal. And it's fine to say it, but to actually execute some campaign to the mass market is another thing. This is where Katrina, one person had this dream and a passion for it, and she has taken it all the way to completion with partners and star power. The federal government can't even do it. But this one little lady in Michigan who's got a lot of spunk and a lot of grit and a lot of passion did it, right? It shows you if someone is driven, they can do it. And props to her for pulling this off, for the betterment of kids, for just making it aware. And you never know. And I think, Bill Paul, founder of STN, his mission was always like, can we save a child's life? Can we aim as our central goal? Can we arm people with information to make them safer, more efficient, and really help school children in the United States, in the world for that matter? And I think that here you have an individual who's a subscriber, an award winner, Peter Gandolfo Memorial Award winner, just at the recent STN Expo West conference. We couldn't have picked a better person. We didn't even know she was doing this campaign. And here it is. I mean, super amazing thing. And I don't know, it just blows my mind that someone was able to do this just by being passionate and enrolling other people in the vision.
Trina gets things done, absolutely. So hats off to her. And it's interesting, as you mentioned, faster than the feds can do it. And when I was looking at this bill, also we have the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that is also trying to do a PSA. I know we've heard for a couple of years now their intent of doing a click it or ticket type campaign for illegal passing. We still haven't seen that. I know that they came out recently with their driver knowledge of school bus passing laws, a national survey. And, it found that most drivers are generally unaware of stop arm laws. At least, that's what they say, or they remain confused, or even worse, they don't care. That was what really stood out to me. I know we talked about that previously.
Well, also, didn't we have that Waymo? It illegally passed a school bus,
a
right?
Waymo, and the cops didn't know. They were trying to stop it to give it a ticket, and they're like, "Well, who do we give a ticket to?" So I'm sure they're going to figure that out and go to corporate or something. But yeah, that was a humorous headline that we saw last week. But, absolutely, we see more and more autonomous vehicles on the road, and, the Google car and the Tesla car and the Waymo car, and we're going to see more and more of that going forward. And it brings to light some of the content we've had at STN Expos over the last couple of years, most recently in Charlotte back in March, where we had a representative from Applied Information. So they're one of the leading smart cities technology providers, who has been working with the likes of Icy Bus and with Bluebird to incorporate school bus stops into dash warnings, specifically so far in Audi vehicles, working with Audi. That was a big project and that we wrote about a couple years ago. We're just going to see more and more of that. And I think that certainly with autonomous vehicles, that's going to be absolutely a priority to not only, give these vehicles the coding that they need to recognize, of course, railroad crossings and intersections and whatnot, but when they come up on a school bus, they need to know what those flashing lights mean, if they can detect that stop arm. So really interesting the programming that is happening and is going to be necessary to address this next generation of vehicles and technology that's going to be on our roads, all again to keep the kids as safe as possible.
Speaking of technology, as we prognosticated, it's officially official that the FCC revoked the school bus Wi-Fi. I thought it was funny. 2-1 doesn't sound like very many people are on the FCC board anymore, right?
Well, no, there's supposed to be 5. There's only 3. So we have Chairman Brendan Carr, who's a holdover from the last regime as well. He's a Republican. So he was appointed by President Trump, confirmed earlier this year. Olivia Trusty was recently confirmed. She's another Republican. The other holdover is Democrat Ana Gomez. So she was the one in that 2-1, as you can imagine. So there still are 2 additional commissioners that need to be appointed. And certainly if President Trump can get this done during his term, he's going to try to fill that with Republicans and have a 4-1 majority. That'll be a lot. But yeah, certainly it was a 2-1 vote to revoke E-rate eligibility for both school bus Wi-Fi as well as off-campus external hotspots. There was a Congressional Review Act we wrote about earlier this year that's in the Senate that succeeded on that hotspots issue. There's a CRA in the House now that needs to be justified. Senator Ted Cruz is really pushing on that, but he does not have the votes so far anyways. And there's this little thing called the government shutdown going on right now, Tony. I don't know if you've read about it, but that I think is taking all of the attention in Washington, D.C. right now, but certainly the FCC did what it could do. So you can read my article. I updated it. I did a special report a week before or several days before the vote last week, and I updated it. And I do have in there, though, there's a quote from Joey Wender. He's actually an advocate of school bus Wi-Fi, and he's with the School Health and Library Coalition, I think something like along those lines. And apologies for not getting that if I didn't get that right. But he basically said, hey, this is the lesser of 2 evils. FCC can always be reversed if we get a new commission in there that is an advocate and sympathetic to school bus Wi-Fi. Then that can be changed. A congressional action, that's going to be a lot harder to change. So, the school bus Wi-Fi advocates are looking at this as not a win, certainly, but not as bad as it could be. So, but what we know is any pending applications for fiscal year 2025 E-rate eligibility reimbursement, that's off the table. FCC is revoking that. So folks, if you have school bus Wi-Fi and you were hoping to get E-rate money to pay for it or reimburse you for it, you need to find another avenue for now.
Got it. All right, guys, we're going to shift gears, head to some interviews. I'm talking with Jeff Cassell, president of School Bus Safety Company. Hey guys, I'm very excited to bring to the STN podcast the president of the school bus safety company, Mr. Jeff Cassell. Jeff, welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So Jeff is an expert in safety. We've had him on a few times. I quote him a lot in my articles talking about safety. He's got oodles of experience coming from Laidlaw as the head of risk management and has seen a lot in his days over the years in school transportation. And he's put it to good work creating the school bus safety company. And he's got a lot of great safety videos that he's created, the leader in that field. And what really brought Jeff here today is he dropped me an email and said, "Hey, Tony, I got this new safety leadership course. Will you watch it?" And I'm like, okay, I'm busy, but I'll check it out, Jeff. It's 2 hours long. It's a commitment, right? You got to look at it, but Jeff always puts together really innovative stuff. And so I took the opportunity to go through the video, really see what it was about, spend the time with it. And wow, it was amazing, guys. You will really be impressed by this video. And Jeff and I have always gone back and forth over the years and say, oh, there's nothing like it out there. And it's always interesting to see how people react to videos. Because I think that the first inclination, and Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is people think they know it. Right. They're like, I got this, right? Like, I know it all already. Why do I even watch this? But I think when I watch the video, it refreshes me on things. And I also learn new things as well. Is that typically the reaction you get when you create courses like this that cause people to engage and have to take time out of their schedules to invest in their professional development?
Absolutely, Tony. In fact, you're pointing at my biggest hurdle. I truly believe that this safety leadership course is the holy grail of training. Best thing I have ever created by a distance. Thing is, those are just words. I managed to persuade you to actually go through it. And at the end of it, I'm thinking you're glad you did. You did learn new things. Well, we find getting people to actually invest that time. There's actually a saying that one of the highest forms of ignorance is rejecting something without not even knowing what it is. And many people I send a preview to of safety leadership never get around to looking at it, which is terrible because it's an outstanding course and it's a big challenge, but it's worth investing the time, I think, as you will agree.
And then what's typically out there now, Jeff? What do you see in terms of safety leadership training materials comparatively, right? We're comparing this program to what exists out there maybe in someone's training regimen now. Is there anything?
Almost nothing. The only thing I know of is NAPT have a leadership course. I believe it's 10 times longer than what my course is. I also believe their course is more than 10 years old. So that's the only thing I know about leadership training. And it doesn't come even close to what we have. And I'd certainly put up a competition on that.
Yeah. So how would you sum up the course in maybe a few sentences for the audience?
Again, you issued a statement a little earlier. People don't know what they don't know. They assume they already have it covered. Our leadership course takes the objective. We start at the top of the pyramid. What are we trying to achieve? Safely taking children to and from school. How do we do that? We remove or reduce risk. How do we do that? We identify the behaviors that involve risk and we change them. And how do we do that? We need the leadership of a location to understand what they're trying to achieve. There is a mission statement that comes with my course, a very short mission statement that says, the leadership of the location will do everything they can to change the behavior of the drivers, to remove or reduce risk in everything they do. That's what my course is all about. To infuse, persuade drivers to remove risk in the 22 behaviors we've identified in the SMS poster that comes with the course. And when you do that, you're safe. So what does my course do? It persuades drivers to remove or reduce risk.
I mean, at its core, Jeff, it's about reducing accidents too, right? So conscious behaviors that people are doing day in, day out. And sometimes they don't have an accident when they exercise those behaviors, but when they do, they have a higher risk profile to do it, right? Minor accidents, major accidents. And I think in transportation, it's all about uptime, right? Making sure that vehicle is a working asset. You don't want to have to carry as many spare vehicles, spare drivers. There could be workman comp issues in an accident. There's a lot of other things as you start to unpack that. But realistically, when it comes down to it, is that a motivator? And kind of what does that mean? Can you explain that a little further? I know the program goes into it.
Absolutely. Nobody wants to have an accident, but they often perform unsafe behaviors repeatedly, automatically, that will eventually lead to accidents. The more times you follow too closely, the more times you'll rear end somebody. It's all a question of numbers. And we believe that every accident is caused, and they are caused by conscious and deliberate unsafe behaviors. That doesn't mean people go out to deliberately have accidents, but they deliberately perform the unsafe behavior. Again, following too closely. The driver controls the brake pedal, the gas pedal, the steering wheel. They can stay back at least 4 seconds at all times. And if they do, it's unlikely they'll ever have an accident. Now, they may get away with it once or twice and not doing it, but eventually they'll be making that radioing in, I've just rear-ended a car. And that's the same for the 22 unsafe behaviors we detail in our safety management system. Every one of them can be changed, and that's what the best drivers do. So safety, to many people, is a grey subject. It's a word we have out there, and we have a feel for it, but we don't really know what it is. Well, safety, when you cut through the layers of it, is removing or reducing risk in everything you do. No rushing, no speeding, always counting the kids away, rock and rolling for turns, looking around, looking ahead, communicating with other drivers. The 22 behaviors that we detail and describe in our safety management system. So it really is as simple as that.
So if someone's really trying to determine if they want to invest in the safety leadership course, what are the things they should be considering? Or if they're in an organization where they think maybe their leadership could get value out of this course, what do you say to them?
It's a good question, because I'm saying how fantastic it is, but that's my opinion. I want your opinion. And I've had your opinion because you've been through it and told me you think it's outstanding. Now I want the opinion of the people who are interested. And the way to do it is we will give anybody a 7-day free preview of the entire course. They can go through it and see what they don't teach today and what they should. And as you've seen inside of it, Tony, we teach many new things. And that ABC conception is unbelievable. That if I want to change behavior, I have to consider the ABC. A is the antecedent, B is the behavior, C is the consequence. If you see a 50 mile an hour speed limit and you come off the gas pedal, the antecedent was the speed limit sign. The behavior was you came off the gas pedal. The consequence is you're less likely to have an accident. So when you're trying to influence the behavior of drivers, you've got to consciously think about ABC. What's the antecedent I'm going to use to change the behavior of my drivers? Well, obviously, we say using our driver training course. And then we say trainers reinforcing what the training course covers. Then we say reading the handout you get with it. All of these are influencing a behavior. And we want to influence a behavior so that we remove or reduce risk. That is the consequence. If you remove or reduce risk, you'll never have an accident. So most people don't even know what ABC is. Never mind when sitting down and saying, okay, our goal is to influence our drivers. What techniques, what practices, what can we use as an antecedent to influence our drivers? Training is obviously one of them. An incentive plan is another one of them. Negative consequence is another one of them. So our course spends a whole big detail upon how you as a leader, a location manager, leader, a supervisor can apply ABC to change the behavior of your drivers.
Huh. Yeah, that's a really generous offer. Guys, a 7-day trial for STN podcast listeners, readers. Make sure you take advantage of that. That's really great to be able to check it out. It's always nice to get a test drive, Jeff, of the program before you buy it. So your website, email you, where do they go to kind of get that trial rolling?
One or two, they can go to our website, which is quite easy to remember, www.schoolbussafetyco.com. Co as in company, or you can just call here, 866-275-7272. We have it set up so very quickly. My assistants, they both call Kelly, I have Kelly 1 and Kelly 2, can set anybody up almost instantly with, you can go in and do the course. Now, what many people do is they go in and they say, wow, 2 hours, but it actually engages you. I think you would agree, Tony. The narrators were fantastic.
100%.
And you weren't bored going through it.
Yeah.
So as I say, trust me. No, don't trust me. Don't trust me at all. Instead, ask to see the course for yourself and then you decide. That's all I want you to do.
So, Jeff, the course was built on a mission statement. What is that mission statement?
The mission statement, we have it right on the front page, to train all levels of leadership in how to guide, lead, and direct drivers to do it right, the first time, every time, by always following the safe behaviors detailed in the safety management system. And there are the 22 behaviors in the safety management system. It's as simple as that. And the driver training course goes through them one at a time, explaining what behavior you don't do and why, and what behavior you do, and why it's in your interest to do so. The Wi-Fi, what's in it for me? And we spend a lot of time making sure what we teach is to the benefit of the leadership, the trainers, and the drivers.
Yeah, with them, right? With them. I think that's what's in it for me. That's how you. I always enjoy you sharing those little acronyms. They're always fun. So Jeff, you always say that this is the best training course ever. Now, this one you're touting as the holy grail of leadership training. Why do you think that? Why is this one kind of the absolute pinnacle of all the training courses you've created thus far in your career here?
Wow, what a good question. What is the most important thing in operating school bus transportation? The leadership at the location. The leadership decides what happens, how it happens, for how long, and what consequences are. The leadership is the number one principle in everything that's done. There's a saying that every company is the length and shadow of one person, and it is the location manager, who's influenced by the supervisors and trainers. So what I'm saying is, for all the courses I've ever created, this is the one that's the most important, the most needed, and the one that will have the greatest return. Because when every leader in the facility are going in the same direction at the same time, you will influence behavior and you will change it. Now, it's things like the definition of the word safety. The location manager may or may not know it. Well, so do the supervisors have the same definition? Do the drivers have the same definition? Unless we're working with the same definitions and seeking the same practices and seeking the same outcomes, then we're just going through the motions. So the reason this is my number one is the most needed course in school busing and the one that will give by far the greatest return. Don't accept my word for it. Go through the course yourself.
Go check it out. Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely worth your time, guys, to go see what Jeff's created. He's calling it the trifecta as well, right? Really trying to hit on the top level kind of training needs inside leadership. And I think leaders get so busy in the day-to-day that you get kind of bogged down and you forget about that training component, that it's so important for you to take a minute, step back, readjust yourself and say, hey, how can I be a better leader? I mean, we do conferences all the time. We're trying to promote people to go, network, elevate themselves. And a lot of what we talk about is topical, granular, where now you're diving deeper into more of these holistic leadership silos, right? I mean, where's the value? Why as a leader, give us your best elevator pitch on this, Jeff. Why as a leader should I invest in this course? Why, believing Tony, believing Jeff, what I need to believe for myself? What is it that's going to motivate me to make me or my team better? What kind of outcomes can I expect?
Well, the location manager, whether a director of transportation or whatever, has certain knowledge and skills and practices. Well, they're often in an office, only sometimes walking around. Do the other rest of the management team agree with what you do, what you want, what you know, and what you say? You have no idea. This course gets everybody on the same page. It's aimed at the location manager, the supervisors, the dispatchers, the trainers, and head of maintenance, so that they all know what we seek and why we seek it and what we're going to do about it. And that's the thing, getting everyone on the same page, going in the same direction. There's another saying I like, Tony. It actually comes from Alice in Wonderland. If you don't know where you want to go, how will you ever get there? So what I'm saying is, It's a gimme. It's one of those statements. Is safety important? Of course it is. You don't know the answer. But do you care about this? Getting all your leaders to guide, lead, and direct drivers to do it right the first time, every time, in everything they do by following those 22 safe behaviors. Of course you do. Well, I want everyone who leads at your location to have the same direction and the same way of getting there. And it makes everything much, much easier.
Fantastic conversation today with Jeff Cassell, president of the School Bus Safety Company. Jeff, thanks for coming on, sharing about the new safety leadership course. Guys, go make sure to check it out, schoolbussafetyco.com. You can go on the STN website too. Jeff put out a press release talking all about the safety leadership program in much more depth. Also, if you grab that October issue, you flip it open. Let's see, what page are we on, Jeff? I think we're on
page 11.
Page 11. I knew Jeff would know. Yeah, page 11. Go check it out. Read the press release on this outstanding safety leadership course, guys. Go check it out. Thanks a lot for coming on, Jeff. We appreciate you.
I'm hoping to change the industry with this course, Tony. I shoot high.
Go for the gold, buddy. Go for it.
Thank you.
A great conversation with Jeff. We're going to get to another interview here with Glenna Gallo, TSD Conference keynote speaker, and Mr. Ryan Gray right after this. We're back from STN Expo West, and what a blast the TransFinder team had meeting everybody. They held several classes, had an amazing response to their ride and drive, showcasing their award-winning driver app, Wayfinder. One of the highlights was the top transportation teams panel discussion. The leaders of the 6 winning teams demonstrated just why their teams won. These were thoughtful leaders who listened to their teams, made changes to show how they cared, and yes, even had to make difficult decisions. As TransFinder's CEO Antonio Civitella said, it is so rewarding to honor these men and women who truly do heroic work every day. You can see how much this recognition means to these teams, and that's what makes it all worth the effort. TransFinder started the Top Transportation Teams program in 2023, and it continues to get bigger and better every year. Learn more by visiting toptransportationteams.com to learn more about how your company can join the program. Also visit transfinder.com.
All right, we want to welcome to the School Transportation Nation podcast stage. This is a big one, folks. Glenna Wright-Gallo. She is the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education, heading up the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services. Glenna, been trying to get you on the podcast or at our conference for a while. Finally succeeded. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, as always, Ryan, thanks for the opportunity and the persistence in trying to get me scheduled.
Well, and it's, you joke persistence, because I think I texted you a couple years ago and said, Madam Secretary, I have a request for you. And you were at the Department of Education, and it was a Hail Mary. I wanted to try to tap you to bring you into TSD. I figured it wasn't going to work out. But, thank you for your support. And you said, hey, get with my people and see if we can make something happen. And it just didn't. But now that you are in the private sector, and we'll get into that in a second, you are one of our esteemed keynotes coming up for TSD Conference Sunday morning, November 9th keynote. That's a prime slot. That's the prime time, which is fitting for you. And you're going to be talking about staying mission focused, leading through policy shifts with clarity and confidence. There's obviously a lot going on right now in Washington, D.C. You are an insider. You're going to unpack a little bit of what we at least know here in the next month or so, month and a half, for what this means to transportation. But first, before we get into that, I always like to start our podcast with letting our nation know a little bit more about you. So tell the nation, aside from your title there and the prestige that comes with that, who is Glenna Wright-Gallo?
Oh my goodness. So we're going to jump right into it. You're not going to like start
Exactly.
with a softball question.
No softballs.
So, I think I always want to start with I'm an educator, and I was a special educator, and went into that field because I always knew I was going to be an educator, and I wanted to make sure that I helped children learn. Part of that journey was that I myself have a disability. And so I wasn't identified until late in my education career. I was one of those students who, made progress and got passed from grade to grade, excelled in academics, but ultimately was identified as having a speech language impairment, which you're probably going to hear come out in this podcast. And not until my 30s identified as having a significant hearing impairment. And so I use a variety of technology and have, as it's been developed, in order to cope. AI captions, transcriptions, all sorts of resources like that. And really appreciate the opportunity for podcast and edits as I trip over some words that isn't always available when I'm speaking publicly. And it's something that I continue to work on. After becoming an educator, I went to work for the state of Utah and actually became the state director of special ed in Utah for 7 years, and then the assistant superintendent of special education for the state of Washington prior to my nomination by President Biden for assistant secretary and subsequent Senate confirmation.
So
now, though, I was going to say, do you want me to talk about now, or do you want to ask a question?
Oh, well, I was gonna jump in there and say, in between that, you were talking about transitioning from the Utah State Department of Education until, it's always a mouthful, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction in Washington State. We got you actually right in that transition phase. We got you out to STN Expo West out in Reno, Nevada. It was about 2018.
2017, you're right.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about charter schools or something, but so we did get you out there to Reno, and I know it's a little bit closer to your neck of the woods. You're living in Las Vegas now, and so that's just a hop, skip, and a jump. But getting you to TSD, and then you were talking about your transition from the state to the Department of Education, and you were confirmed. So how did that all happen? I mean, getting to hear the nitty gritty of how these backroom dealings work. I mean, you were obviously on a short list. How did you find out? What was that process?
So, I only know part of the details, but I kind of got a cold email that showed up in my inbox asking me if I would be willing to meet with someone from the White House Office of Personnel. And so, as one does, the answer is yes. And had several meetings scheduled without really knowing the context, where they just asked, lots of questions about philosophy, what I had done, what had been accomplished, metrics, goals that I had for the future, ideas, and went through several conversations and ultimately met with Secretary Cardona. And after that, was asked if I was interested in the position of assistant secretary. And then, once you indicate agreement with that, then it starts preparation for Senate confirmation and kind of going through policies and just prepping for that confirmation hearing. So mine was a lengthy process. There was a lot going on politically as part of this. I feel like it took maybe 16, 18 months to get through that process, which was, it was a whirlwind because I was trying to wrap up things in my current position so that I didn't leave them in the lurch. I was trying to train people. I still didn't have a confirmed position because it requires Senate confirmation. And so until they vote, you do not have the position, right? And can't do anything that would be seen as a conflict of interest for that position. So, I was fortunate in that I had the opportunity to wrap up my current position. I moved at the time. I moved from Washington State back to Las Vegas. Took on some consulting gigs. And then actually, I don't know, Ryan, if we've ever talked about this, but I was a contract driver for the Tesla tunnels here in Las Vegas.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
For a little bit of time, again, looking for something to do that wasn't a conflict. And I got my license in Nevada to teach again and substitute taught.
So this was all happening,
which I loved.
Yeah, that's a lot happening, and because it showed a little peek behind the curtain there, because you served in the Biden administration from 2023, basically. Mm-hmm. I think you really left, I think officially, around the time of the election, but technically.
No,
were you around?
I stayed until Inauguration Day.
Oh, okay.
So Inauguration Day was my final day.
But it goes to show, because, I mean, really you came in halfway through President Biden's term, essentially. But really, this process started almost from the beginning. They knew that you wanted, and it just goes to show how long that takes. So as we're dealing with government shutdowns and all the different things going on in Congress, it goes to show that this stuff really does take a really long time. So here we are. We've transitioned, as I was mentioning earlier, back to the private sector. And you are now VP of Policy for Everway. Tell us about, what does Everway do, and what are you doing for them?
So Everway is an ed tech company that focuses on accessibility. So accessibility to learning and accessibility for working. They cover what we call pre-K to gray. So from early childhood through K-12, through post-secondary education and higher education to the workplace. They have a suite of products that are interoperable, AI infused, that really focus on accessibility to quality instruction. So the big one that people know about is Read and Write. It really builds in multiple tools that let students access grade level content and really remove some of the cognitive load off of reading and writing. And it has application for higher ed and the workplace. What's key here is this was my first foray away from public education, but I really felt strongly about the mission and vision of Everway, which is about making sure that everyone can understand and be understood. And they really focus on, like I said, accessible tech that's evidence-based, that really addresses learning. So as VP of Policy, I get to do all of the things that I do best and that I love, which is to really pay attention globally, though. So it's a global company, to pay attention to what's going on in education and workplace that impacts everyone, including people who are neurodiverse, such as having dyslexia or ADHD or autism, as well as typical learners and workers. Mm-hmm. And so they're really just focused on how do we apply policy and how do we use policy to be forward thinking and make sure that that environments are universally designed to meet the needs of everyone.
Okay. And so I know one of your big projects that you worked on when you were at the Department of Education was a Dear Colleague letter on assistive technology. So certainly Everway probably saw that and said, hey, we really wanted to tap your expertise. But in terms of transportation, because I know part of your time with us at TSD Conference, you're doing that keynote on November 9th, but then that afternoon, you're also doing a breakout session on Dear Colleague letters. And there's been several over the years that deal specifically with transportation. I'm curious your thoughts when we're looking at assistive technology. Certainly a lot of this is, in classroom, right? And we always hear that classroom. We're really viewing the school bus as an extension of the classroom now. So I'm curious of your thoughts. Is there a bridge there when we're talking assistive technology to transportation?
Definitely. Well, I think there's so many opportunities here. So first of all, we're talking assistive technology, it can be used in multiple ways, right? So with the Miss to Facts and the Dear Colleague letter that came out of the Department of Ed is talking about assistive technology under the definition of IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and technology that's needed for a student with an IEP to access a free, appropriate public education. I think, though, a lot of times when we talk about assistive technology, we're just talking about technology as a tool that helps us access and learn and do better. So I'm going to use it, I think, in that format as I answer this. I think that there are so many different ways that assistive technology and technology can be infused throughout transportation, right? We know, like, the scheduling, the training of drivers and coordinators, tracking of buses and students, technology can all be used for that. But we also know that students can spend a lengthy amount of time on buses, even though we do our best to decrease that. And how can we use that opportunity to increase opportunities for students to learn and students to interact with other students? And I think assistive technology and technology as a whole is geared towards being able to help that. So when we think about students that use augmentative assistive communication, or AAC devices, being able to interact with their peers as well as staff on the bus, ways to work with AI-infused supports to do tutoring, like high dosage tutoring while they're on the bus, ways that they can interact and get real-time assistance with instruction, with homework, with studying, is all an opportunity. And then really just ways to engage socially with peers. So just beyond like basic communication, but how do we strengthen relationships? You know, one of the things that we're hearing about as we come out of the pandemic and as we see the rise of AI and the impact of social media is that we're really struggling to build those personal connections and relationships. And I think there's a great opportunity to do some of this and use some of that bus or transportation time and assistive technology at that point.
I have to ask you this as a Washington, D.C. insider. You're probably aware of a ruling as we're recording this. FCC issued a declaratory ruling to basically undo E-rate eligibility for school bus Wi-Fi, as well as off-campus hotspots. A lot has been going on in Congress about that. But what I'm hearing, and I think what a lot of the advocates say is, you know, when you're talking about assistive technology, especially when you're looking at students with disabilities, I know of at least one case in New Mexico where a school district has been working with the special education department. They've been using the E-rate funding to pay for learning programs on the school bus, especially for students with autism, so that they're actually able to access tablets and programs that they're working on in class. Because so many places across the United States, and I know you're aware of this, some of these students, whether they have disabilities or not, are subjected to very long school bus rides. Isn't that a great opportunity for them, especially students with disabilities, to truly extend that classroom?
Definitely. I am dismayed by this decision to roll back those supports. It doesn't make sense to me that we would take action to reduce access to learning and instruction, and especially the opportunity to really utilize that time, right? Where we have students who have limited ability to engage in other activities. Also, I have to say, Ryan, like as a former teacher, right, we know that student inappropriate behavior is frequently an issue, both in classrooms and during transportation. And we know that the greatest indicator and the greatest impact on inappropriate behavior is engaging instruction. Right? Like if you keep the student engaged, you give them some really good quality information and content, you're going to see inappropriate behavior decrease. So it doesn't make sense to me that we would remove supports that allow us to do that during transportation time. I hope that this is something that's revisited. And in the meantime, I'm looking at ways that we can coordinate funding to provide those same supports, even if this is cut at the federal level.
Great point. And the folks that we've talked to, they've seen that reduction in behavior issues because, like you said, engage the students, redirect them from whatever that activity. A lot of it's boredom, and
Right.
you have these kids, they're an audience, they're looking for something to do and provide it to them. So we'll definitely see. I had an article. You can head over their nation to stnonline.com. We have a special report on that. So that's ongoing. But back to TSD, Glenna, I want to jump into your keynote a bit. So staying mission focused. Obviously, there's a lot going on in Washington, D.C. right now, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. One of the big headline grabbers earlier this year was, will the Department of Education live on? And we know that has been a campaign promise by President Trump to get rid of the Department of Education. This is something that's been going on basically since it was first, originated. Want to get your thoughts. If you can read the tea leaves, what you're hearing. I know things are moving and changing, like with the wind and the breeze. But what are you looking for student transporters to know about? How does this, or how could this impact them?
Definitely. So I'm going to just say right now, I cannot read the tea leaves on this. I think that the effects and the activities of the last 10 months, 9 months, have surpassed anything that I would have previously predicted. What I do think it's important, though, is to come back to what are the things that we all agree on and what are we working on? And we all know, doesn't matter what side of the politics you are, we all agree that we want students to learn, we want them to become, productive members of society, and that requires a quality education. Part of that is making sure students have access to that quality instruction. And so I would focus on that. I wouldn't focus on what are the day-to-day politics, what's going on, will the department close, will the department not close. I would focus on what is it that we agree and we know needs to happen in order to continue to ensure that our children learn and are productive. For that, though, I will say this, I worked at a state education agency. I've worked at the federal education agency. In every environment that I've worked, as I'm sure you're going to say the same, I have seen things that need to improve, and I have seen things that have been done well. Right? And that is across all settings. So I am not one to say that everything is perfect and needs to stay the same. But what I do know is that the research has shown us also that simple reorganization, like assigning staff differently, is not an effective lever of change. And so in that, I don't advocate for closing it. If it closes, though, will those responsibilities be adjusted and consumed somewhere else, likely at the state level? Yes. Right. So what I think we need to do, though, is go back to disability rights and go back to Brown versus Board of Education. Without the federal role, we saw different equities. We saw that students with disabilities, children with disabilities, did not have access to public education. I don't know that we're in a place where if the federal role wasn't there, that would still be in place across our nation consistently.
And I think it's important to note, obviously, when you're talking about the U.S. Department of Education, you're talking about IDEA, like you mentioned before, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. These are acts of Congress. So Congress would still need to get involved, and if they vote to undo that, but as I mentioned, we're going through a government shutdown where there's all these things going on. And as I think it's important that you said earlier, across the aisle, everybody wants the kids to learn. They're going about it different ways, but I think that when there's so many fish to fry, it comes down to priorities. And so, again, I if you can't read the tea leaves, then I certainly cannot. But I would think that, especially between now and 6 weeks or 5 weeks from now, when TSD rolls out, we're not going to see anything happen. But I think it's certainly on people's minds. So it will be good to get your thoughts. And I think it's important, like you noted, really it comes back to what's best for the children.
Yeah.
So that's what sticks out to me. In closing, I want to hear from you, because you've done so much. Are there certain things that really stand out over your career, whether it be at the state level or at the Department of Education in DC, that you're especially proud of?
Oh my goodness. I would say, yes, there are certain things, but before I talk about the specific things, one of the things that I think has been the most impactful to me and that I reflect on almost daily is my opportunity to continue to learn and grow in every job I've been in, and how I've used that to make the system better. And so I have worked really hard, and I'm especially proud of the fact that I've never been complacent when something hasn't been right, or when the system has been broken, or when it has failed someone. I may not have been able to fix it immediately, but I've tucked that away and pulled it back out when I did have that ability. And so that's something that I've really realized, that what I know now, I wish I knew when I was a teacher. I wish I knew when I was a parent, when my children were younger. I wish I knew when I was a student, and I knew how important it would be. And I'm trying to use all of those lessons to make, this sounds very Pollyanna-ish, but to make the world a better place, right? So that I'm not just going like, yeah, that's broken and we need to get rid of it, but to say, you know what, that needs to change, and this is how we can change it. That's something that I want to talk about when I'm at TSD, is how is it that we work together to use those lessons that we all have? How do we bring transportation directors and drivers and staff together with other district personnel and instructional personnel, as well as families and students themselves? How do we identify how we can work better together, how we can access those resources and move forward?
Well, looking forward so much to having you out in Frisco and learning more about you. We've known each other for a few years, not super well, but hopefully get to spend a little bit more time with you on site. I know you're an extremely busy woman, and getting to know, I didn't know about your hearing impairment, and it's, strangely enough or not, we have an ASL training to wrap things up. I know you're already going to be gone. You probably can. You've learned some American Sign Language, I'm sure. But so much there at TSD for all of our nation to really sink their teeth into. Certainly, you're going to be a big focal point of this. So again, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and more so just, being available and eager to be with us at TSD. So thank you so much, Glenna.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be there, and I hope I get to meet lots of your attendees, as well as see some old friends.
Thanks, Glenna. See you soon.
A special thanks to Ryan, Glenna, Jeff for all coming on to share your knowledge on the STN podcast. We're looking forward to all the good things coming up here at the TSD Conference, November 6th to the 11th. It's going to be an exciting time down in Frisco, Texas, guys. You haven't locked it in, go check it out, tsdconference.com, for all the excellent training, the ultimate in training around special needs and school transportation. Don't forget, guys, you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Also, special thanks to our sponsors, TransFinder, the School Bus Safety Company, and RIDE. Visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on the school transportation industry. We've got you covered, nation, every week. We love you. We'll see you next week.